Well, I think we can probably get started. I don't know.
You get 4.
You only need 3. Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if we're Gary. We're planning on coming.
Such a miserable night, you know, we actually enjoyed our drive.
So, Tim, you know everybody, right? And
I
Tim.
don't believe I've met you. I'm
Kim Burkhardt.
Tim Stryker.
Good to meet you.
Nice to meet you. And Mr. Riley.
You can call it Tim.
And of course, I remember Fernando. Yep. And Bob and Sarah.
So Tim Stryker first came to visit us when we were much younger.
Yep.
It's been several years.
It is.
His dad, Mark Stryker, used to be on that committee.
As president.
Tim used to come sometimes, so glad to have you back.
Thank you. Good to be
Yeah,
here.
Tim does all of our minutes.
Yeah.
Does a nice job keeping it organized for us.
Okay.
I'm trying.
Beautiful.
She also prepares our agenda. And Bob, Kim and I were talking earlier today. I realized, and we haven't been very good at this in the beginning of the year each year, but there's some beginning of year business we're supposed to attend to.
Okay.
And, you know, some of it's just formality items like reaffirming that she's the secretary and acknowledging that the town board appointed a chairperson, which, by the way, congratulations, you're the chair again. Didn't ask me if you wanted to be, but I hope that you agree.
And they appointed Tim to the.
They did, yep.
Okay.
Yep, we made sure he got put on there. Yep, so you're officially a member as of Monday. So those kinds of things. And then there's also, I didn't print it out. I can pull it up if you want, but we did it the first year back in 2017. You guys, I don't know if you call it approved or acknowledged or whatever, your rules of procedure. You don't necessarily have to change it every year, but I think, again, it's a formality. You're supposed to at least acknowledge it. It's not something we've been doing. I didn't mean to print that. I didn't print it out, but you know, we could share it via email and do it next time, or I can bring it up and show you what you have. It's the kind of rules of procedure are all those things like you'll abide by open meeting laws, you'll have an agenda, post it to the website, and we get the minutes to the town clerk, stuff like that.
Well, we just have what, 2 referrals?
You have one referral that you've seen before and nothing's changed.
So and then just to go over this one more time, so we should have some time, so we can do that stuff first.
You
Do
want-
the.
Sure.
Get it. No, I remember in the past, either like the end of the year or beginning of the year, they like a report from the committee.
That's the other thing on my list. And in the rules of procedure, it says that you'll give it to the town board by January 1st every year.
Okay.
So in the past, I guess if we were on top of it, we should have looked at this in November and had it ready to go by your December meeting, so you could officially put it in the minutes that you referred it to the town board. So today I went through, I skimmed through the minutes from last year and I drafted a report for you guys
All
that
right.
I'll pass out.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I tried to keep it to a page. I'll just give it to you. I printed out 5. Did you get one? I estimated the right number. I think I captured everything. Thank you, Kim, for keeping such great minutes because I was able to find the stuff I wasn't thinking of. And we can make any changes necessary. You can also just get back to me like tomorrow if you want to read it later. And then this can be attached to the January 30th town board meeting with the other annual reports. A lot of the other groups are submitting their annual reports for the January 30th meeting too. So there will be a whole group of them.
Yeah, if we can just read through it quickly.
Yep, that's fine. If I left something out or you want anything changed.
is this, does this follow a format?
No. No, what I told the other groups is try and keep it to around a page if you can, so I did. And it's just kind of an overview of what you accomplished or what you did in 2022. So I just kind of summarized the referrals. As far as I know, there were only 3 town laws that you guys either drafted or reviewed in 2022. And then the activities, like the fair and the farm.
Okay. Thank you.
It's a little late, but we'll get it in
Well,
there.
you said the other day this term is in too, or?
Yeah, well, and I figured it's fine because, you know, you close out your year in January, you think about what you did in the previous year until I looked at the rules of procedure and I said, oh. it's a little late.
And nobody's called us to ask us.
They probably won't fire us.
So I pulled your rules of procedure today and don't know what I did with it.
All committees don't have the same.
No, everybody approves their own. Saved it really well.
One of those special places that you won't
One of
forget.
those special places.
Don't you search for
Yeah, well, the thing is I don't know which drive it's on. I could have accidentally saved it to my own computer in that office over there.
we trust you? Already told us what's in. As long as we get the recording. we're probably pretty good.
I can show you what the existing one looks like. I thought I had tried to make a couple changes already. But your existing one is on the page. Oh, I already updated your page, by the way. You're on there.
Oh, splendid.
So as you can see, hasn't been changed in a while. And it says that you'll have your organizational meeting each January. Talks about making sure that, you know, the time and place of the meeting is shared. Usually we do that in the agenda. We also post that to a page on the website and on the town calendar. So since this is a recurring meeting, that's pretty easy. One of the things I was going to suggest that you consider changing is that it does say election of chairperson, but in the town code where it talks about this committee, it says a chairperson will be appointed by the town board every
Okay.
January at their organizational meeting. So they actually do it. You can acknowledge it, but it's appointed by the board.
We might as well just do it, so they don't care if you want it or not, they just take it.
Well, I mean, we're supposed to reach out and see if you want to continue, which is what we've done the last few years.
No, we can change it to however.
Yeah, acknowledge it.
Yeah.
And then the rest of this is pretty standard. Oh, and
What
we
about,
can-
yeah, that's what I was gonna ask.
you
about that.
can say election or whatever you want. I mean, and in the town code, remember when we changed it last year, it says that the secretary does not have to be a member of the committee. We just appoint somebody. So that still works. You can just, I don't know if we want to say election or just appointment or
Yeah, maybe
confirm or
appointment, there's
confirming.
no election. Same as
Sorry, I
a-
can't find it.
appointment for the chair and vice chair.
Right.
Appointed by, those two are appointed by the town board.
The town board doesn't do vice chairmanship, so you guys
Okay.
can still among yourselves pick one if you want.
Okay, so we'll just clarify that the chairperson is appointed by the town board and then the other two are appointed by the committee.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking.
Maybe you already did that.
I did in the draft that I lost. The agendas, this is just kind of saying that you need to give, we or anyone else who wants to add something to agendas need to give the chairperson time. So like we're supposed to tell you, or other members, or town staff or elected officials should do it at least 10 days before the meeting. To give you time to agree on it or not. And you're, as the chair, you're in charge of the agenda as far as having the last say on what should go on it or not. Oh, and this needs to be changed because you guys meet on the second Thursday of the month. So I can update that. And the rest of this is kind of just standard meeting items. Before, basically someone can come and speak if they want, and they get 5 minutes unless the chair gives them more. And then the rest of the stuff, we don't do all of these items, but
Do other committees follow that real closely? Does it just depend?
it depends kind of, it's kind of, some of them are tight with their agendas, others kind of are a little bit looser. I mean, in general, we do this, but we don't do the report of the development office because there isn't always something to report. But, you know, you guys do referrals, so that is kind of,
You guys usually fill us in on anything that we need to know about.
yeah, that's kind of what I mean. That we kind of loosely do this anyway. It's just might not look exactly like that list. And then the motions, voting on the referrals and stuff like that. And do all the things we're supposed to with the minutes. They get turned in and, you know, completed and turn them into the town clerk. And then, yeah, here, well, this one says month of December. There was another section I saw somewhere, it might be in the town code, where it says January 1st. But I don't know. So, not too crazy, really standard.
So we need to vote to adopt these, or
Well, why don't I find the draft that I lost and bring it to you at your February meeting?
Okay.
Fixed and corrected. And then you can acknowledge it and adopt it.
Could we just accept it as with revisions to be followed? Or something like that?
I don't think
So-
it hurts just to wait till February,
Okay,
so that you
because
can actually see it.
we were making a big deal out of the deadline.
No, that was the report, the annual report.
That's right.
I mean, we haven't been very on top of the rules of procedure. The last time we even talked about it was the year this committee was created, so I think it's good that we're going over it and trying to be better going forward. Part of that is, I mean, most of it's my fault. I don't even remember to tell you to do it.
We're just here in an advisory capacity.
Couple words searching. Ooh, I can't spell. Here, just say, I'm gonna get a lot.
Nothing too recent. Since anybody with an agenda sitting on this board. Been sitting here since 2017. When it comes to the agenda, we're just trying to preserve, you know, the lifestyle of agriculture. So that's all.
I don't want to waste too much time.
How many visitors have we had over the years? I think there's been two visitors.
Oh,
No, we
handful.
have had more than that. And we had two on the solar just not too long ago. And when referrals were gonna be happening, on referrals, we have had 3 for the peacocks
Mhm.
in there. And then the last time that we did the PDRs, we had a bunch of owners come in and listen through the process.
Yeah, that's true.
Those are the ones that I remember right away. But,
He had, I remember back a few years ago, Amy Jones from.
Yeah.
Like. Technically,
That's true, the school also came, we had
And-
invited the school.
I can't remember his name. Fowler, maybe? Yeah,
And the person from, not the Canandaigua school, but the Boise also came to visit.
That was Amy.
was
Yeah.
that Amy Jones? Yeah.
And somebody came once from FLCC. But we had a few of them trying, right in the, like the beginning.
We had someone come from the USDA office too once. Shared some information. Yeah, we've had some visitors over the years, not
We
often,
had a
but
chef come here, or the guy who was in charge. of
that
food at
was
schools?
That was
That was the
food,
school, the Canandaigua school.
I can't remember his title, but yeah, he was in charge of like ordering all the food and dealing with like the menus at the schools and trying to do the initiative to buy from, state producers. His goal was once a week, but he said it was actually a lot harder than he thought. I do remember that. So I thought that was interesting. So he was shooting for once a month to have a meal that was everything on the plate was from the state producers. And I remember he said the hardest thing to find was hot dog buns. Or that was the one that stuck out. Hot dog buns baked enough of them to provide for the whole Canandaigua school district.
Must be like 1,000 hot dogs.
I mean, the school district has 4,000 kids or something. And I don't know how many meals they produce every day.
Everybody gets a hot dog. 1,000 hot dogs and 4,000 hot dogs. That's a lot.
Yeah, I don't know if they produce, like, not every kid gets a school lunch, so I don't know how they figure out how much to make. Anyway.
Right,
A little
so we'll-
topic, but
We'll follow up on this next time.
yeah, so semi-organized. Discussing it, just not quite.
And move on to our one referral. I thought there was two.
There's only one. I'll fill it out.
Charlie Miller?
Yeah, so,
We didn't have a quorum last time, so we just discussed it.
right, but, I did not make a printout of the comment sheets, but I'll pull up.
Did we get, did you get any more information from them or we just reviewed it?
So they had to go back to the PRC, which is the group that reviews applications before they go to the planning board to make sure they're complete. They had to go back because they were missing something, I think. Kim and I were talking about it earlier today. Neither one of us can think of any of the items that have changed. So the application is basically the same for the purposes of this group. So bring it up. Oops, that's the wrong folder.
So we don't have to do too much other than anybody that wasn't here gets to see it and update any comments if we feel necessary.
Oh, it's not in there.
I moved it.
It's in the email that you just sent this week.
Yeah.
It's in there with the comments.
Well, today I tried to organize. Okay, I'll show you what you did before, and then I made a new sheet for today, but it's really necessary. So this is the. let me make sure I got it.
That's a different one.
Prepare here for-
This is,
Those are the two from
this is,
December.
Yeah.
Okay.
So before, when you looked at it, they're just dividing, it's Charlie Miller, the one that's on both sides, and they're just dividing it up, subdividing it. They're not planning to do anything with it right now. And your comments from before were that subdivision doesn't in and of itself cause a loss of farmland, but it's more likely to lead to it in the future.
but yeah, it's the only reason to subdivide something.
Right. Um, So I did draft a new one since this is the official look at it again, but everything else is the same, like there's no new information. Soils information is the same, and I put the same comments on there from before. That you had seen it before. So,
But the comments, well, for today's.
Can we update it to having this, that we reviewed it with having a quorum? And have the same comments,
mhm.
unless everybody has anything to add.
We can also just, yeah, I mean, I can just write the same comment, and this one is the official one, because I have a form if you want, or I can change it or add to it. Or just
You
leave
could
it.
ask the question, at this time, they're saying that there's no plans to develop it, but are there plans anytime in the future to help?
From what I've been, I don't have any official information, but just from doing a little investigation, they do plan to build a house on it, is what I've been told.
It seems,
A family member, I believe, which is what I thought from the beginning, seeing the plan, but I don't,
Now you just build a house down the road.
so, I mean, I don't know that, that doesn't really change, that wouldn't change my comments, because it's this, I mean, there's,
Yeah, it wouldn't change what I think.
yeah, I mean, they're not doing anything right now. If they were to build a house, you would get that,
it would come back
it
again.
would come back, because it would be building a single family home on vacant farmland or what used to
But
be.
it's within the use of the, is within the use of the land, right? So
It's
technically,
allowed,
they
yeah.
shouldn't need any special permission or approval.
Well, when you build a house on vacant land, it always goes to the planning board, because it's just one of the triggers. And say, send it to you again, just because it's on farm. I mean, assuming it was still farmed at that time, but it probably would come to you anyway, because it's still the adjacent.
Do you have any questions on these, or what we're doing, or?
Oh,
Well,
yeah, sorry, I
um,
didn't really explain the process.
Well, I should have tried to make some time to look at those documents that was sent in the emails. I didn't have a chance to look over them so that I could come here prepared with any questions, but I guess with
Well, why don't
that,
we give you kind of an
or
overview?
simple rundown.
Do you want to do it, or you want me to tell them?
Yes.
Of what you guys are tasked with when we talk about referrals.
So anytime something goes to the planning board first, right? Then comes to us just for, if it has anything to do with farmland, or if it's in close proximity, I don't think there's any certain rules, is there?
There's a set of criteria. I can share it with you guys again, just as a good reminder.
If I remember correctly, anything that is adjacent to active land, anything that is adjacent to protected land, anything that is within the Battleford Brook runway or the ag, the strategic ag protection plan.
And the
Or-
only overlay should be the overlay now too, right?
Yeah, no, I don't think we changed the criteria, but it probably should be. But if it's in the strategic farmland protection area, it's gonna be in the overlay. Also, if it's within 500 feet of an active farm.
So,
So any of those triggers, it's like an application, if you can say yes to any of those things, then they're automatically gonna send it to this group for your opinion on whether, if this project goes forward, would it result in a loss of, what's it, valuable or
Valuable
viable?
agricultural.
Say valuable agricultural lands. And so that's your main question. Will the project cause a loss? And then you guys can have other comments. As you see, usually I summarize the discussion and then provide the official comment. Either it does cause a loss or it doesn't. And sometimes there'll be an additional note, like I wrote, however, and then added that even though it doesn't cause a loss, it's likely to lead to a loss in the future if the land's developed. So
We also take a look at the type of soils that are on the land.
yeah,
Yep.
so I give you guys, for every project you get, I give you this snapshot that gives a breakdown of the land cover and the soils and the watersheds for the whole property. So you can see if there's prime soils. I also look up in our ag plan and our open space master plan to see if, and you remember the ag plan stuff,
Yes.
to see if the parcel was rated or not by either of those two plans and how well or not it was rated and why. Like, did it have great soils, or was it a really big parcel with a stream running through it that would be good for natural resource protection and so forth. I look up and I find out if it's in an ag district. Many of them are. I look up to see if it's being farmed currently. And then I look to see if it's in any of our protection areas, the greenway, the farmland protection area, the strategic forest protection area, and which watershed it's in. I added that one recently. Just thought it was useful.
We also take a look at the property, some geographic information system, with satellite images to just see what it looks like. And located exactly where it might be.
I remember a little bit of that from a couple years ago when I sat in as an unofficial member here and there on a couple meetings. Back when my father was the chairman.
Well, a lot of them are really fast and simple. But others, we can dig into a little bit more.
Just some of the examples where we dug more was the actual project didn't have a big impact, but it was going to restrict access to other fields. So we felt that other fields were compromised by that project, even if that project didn't lose land. So in that case, in the specific case of the field that you found, we requested an exception so that they would give less frontage to the house being built. So there was a bigger pathway into the back field for them to move equipment. So those were some of the things that we have requested as exceptions on projects.
But we are just an advisory committee. We don't have any real power to make decisions that advise this aspect up to the those decisions there.
This does get sent to the planning board though, and in the end, it's up, like Tim said, it's up to them to either agree with this group or not. So
They do use our feedback though. So
they
there's a
do,
lot.
yeah, they consider it, they talk about it, and it plays a part in their decisions.
Very strongly with solar.
Yes, actually, yes, yeah, so in the case of
That's very
solar,
true.
the existing law, not talking about what the changes are proposed, but in the existing law, it simply says that the planning board has to find that the solar project will not cause a loss of agricultural land, or that, same as this group does with your own referrals, so, that one leans pretty heavily.
Yes, that's right. That's what I wanted to mention. I'd like to, I'll take some time and I'll look over those PDFs that were sent in the email so I
So
can.
this
or
one,
is
this one is the draft solar law that's in that email.
Okay.
So
right.
all the stuff that's underlined without a strike through is the new language that's being suggested. And then obviously the strike through is gonna be deleted.
Okay.
So it's a really big change in the solar law. It's more restrictive for the solar developers.
And I know you said they're most likely gonna put a moratorium in until this is done. What's their time frame on adopting this?
We have to work with the county's referral schedule. And so this one may not actually get to the board for adoption until February meeting.
No, it's still not that long. Though.
Yeah, that's pretty quick.
What is the county's referral board do?
There are certain requirements for the town to send applications to the county's planning board to get their take on things. Just some things that we have to send, like local laws, some other stuff, and then they provide comment, just like this group does, back to the town.
You know what the county's kind of feeling is on solar?
I don't. Question. They depend on what department you're talking to.
Probably.
I imagine their ag board and maybe their planning board would feel similarly as this group.
Just be interesting to know.
There's a lot of development pressure for solar and wind power coming down from government level. There was a plan actually established when Cuomo was the governor, trying to get in like lots of solar by, was it 2040? Is correct. And so there's an mandate and there's money available. So if they don't spend the money and complete the mandates, then they're going to force it. And I think that there's just a new, I forget what size it is, but it's a big new solar panel development that was just put in down on Long Island, you know, so our population density, we don't have that many people here that could really, you know, need or require solar, but there's definitely a lot of forces or opinions in place right now where people and utilities are actually kind of scared by power generation and individual spaces, distributed versus, you know, a utility scale where get your power from RG or Mason, then have it go out. Freeze your tail off. So if you have those solar panels, you know, it's hard
On
to
a sunny day.
Yeah. Well, that's why you have to have energy storage systems in place, but we're totally banning all energy storage systems in the town because the utility trailers are not attractive.
All right, so going back to this one, I would suggest that the comments given in previous meeting, or the fact that the actual subdivision does not affect the loss of agricultural land, however, there is a possibility for increase.
I second that.
I don't think we need to vote on it. So,
I think you, since there wasn't a quorum before,
okay, yeah, okay.
because you couldn't before.
All in favor, say aye. All opposed?
Just makes it
No, it's official.
a little more official, but basically you're saying the same thing. All right. I'll make sure that in the comments that it says you're reaffirming it. One thing for the beginning of the year stuff that I suppose you probably should also vote on is reaffirming Kim as the secretary.
Well, since we're not electing, we're just appointing, all we need is the chair to say you're appointed, correct?
I think a motion and a second vote, just to make it official.
I will
make a motion that Ken continues to be our secretary.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye. Congratulations.
And then with you being added, that means that you only have one vacancy to fill now with the new total of 7 members. Did you ever hear that from Linda?
Linda, no, I'm gonna try to get hold of her again.
So,
We also need to elect a vice chair.
yeah, you can. It's not required, but you can. I know you have been it for a few years.
Do you want to be vice chair?
I am the most inconsistent one in here based on the travel, so probably I should.
You're too
So I need a, but, nice.
I'm really trying hard to make my travel arrangements away from the secondary, so it's not always.
You're not flying anywhere very often, are you? That would be
Not as
very
often as I used.
That's been crazy.
But that's just an excuse because I do the same thing.
Going on the country too.
I do. I dodged the bullet of having to go to India. Thankfully.
I'm always so consistent that it doesn't really matter. I can be fired. He hasn't failed us yet.
That's true. It's been a good journey.
Have to cancel them occasionally during the business season time, but Tim won't be here.
Also, you know,
Yeah. If you don't want to be,
It's just, you know, it doesn't affect the functions of the board, but it might be nice for you.
don't put
Basically,
it
it
on the
only
resume.
comes into play when you're not here. Or on the
Well, if you
meeting.
want, somebody can make a motion for somebody to be the vice chair.
I make a motion to make Fernando the vice chair.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
I-
Also,
Now you're gonna have to change the website.
I already made the note to change it to him. I have to write it down or one.
anybody have anything else?
That was pretty much it. I wrote everything down that we needed to actually discuss.
Maybe we should, one of the earlier meetings of the year, go through just do the annual review of our plan.
Yeah, I actually, as you said that, I looked down and saw that I had one more thing that I forgot that we were supposed to look at. But it's really blank right now, so I was gonna ask,
Let's put the county.
Oh, for when we had a topic ahead of time for each month.
right, and we didn't do this last year, I don't think. But this can be kind of a lengthy process going through with this, so I was gonna ask if you guys wanted to work on that. Because I know we really do need to do this a little review. Or do you want to do this? You don't have to do a schedule like this for a topic for each month.
Oh, I
It
can
helps if
tell.
we're gonna have invitees, if we're gonna invite people.
It might, I was
You
wondering
can
about
make like
that.
kind of a list of things you want to work on this year, you do a month to month, you know, it's up to you guys how you want to plan.
Would it help though to go through the ag plan again
Yeah.
to,
That would,
do you guys want to do that together at a meeting? I know it can get lengthy doing that, but if we pick like a certain section or
I
something,
would pick sections to put it in for the whole thing.
yeah, pick a section and maybe, at least maybe plan every other month or something like that.
sure,
And maybe we could find if there's topics that we want to be educated a little more about, we could have someone come in to talk to it maybe, right?
yeah. You can invite someone every month if you wanted to, but Yeah.
Can we go on field trips?
sure.
I think that we should get the county fair in that schedule right now, though.
Oh, yeah, that was something that was brought up last year, that we didn't do a good job if we waited till the last minute, or discussed if we want to do anything at the county fair, because it hasn't worked out too well the past couple of years.
Last year,
Unfortunately, when during the week and early days, there is very little flow of people, except for people that are doing something there.
And where they put us usually.
one of the things you guys did, because I did go through the minutes today from last year. One of the things you guys talked about last year, and it wasn't necessarily something for the fair, but that was how the discussion started, was some sort of tasting event or farm to table event where it featured town farmers products.
I remember one year,
What is the fair or some like fall event, something to plan.
I remember one year, the theme was was transportation or historical transportation at the fair, and I had my antique farm haul tractor there.
And, I mean, there was one year that we were trying to do it with the highway. When they inaugurated this,
Yeah,
and we're just trying to see the relationships between the two. As I'm thinking about where they put us in the county fair, and will we be better off trying to have some presence in the waterfront festival that they do instead of the county fair? They do an art festival, they put a bunch of different
yeah, down in
vendors.
Kershaw.
incursion, yeah.
There's also a Riesling festival. So
Yeah, the one they did at Kershaw, that, I know when you're talking, I went to it, I do almost every year, and this year, by the playground, one of the, maybe it was Watershed Association, had a booth. So it's not just artists, you could do stuff there.
People in, I mean, you're gonna have time in there at the prime time where people go by and not just,
let's define what the audience would be for something like that. And is it the right audience? And who do we really want to make connections with?
do we wanna make connections or educate general public? Because if we go back to, yeah, one of our points is to preserve the agricultural land, but the other one is to educate for the need of that. To make sure that people understand why we're trying to preserve it. So an event like that is just by saying the importance of farms in the community. It has nothing to do with the importance of the community itself.
So anybody in the town of Canandaigua could be the audience.
Correct.
So you can figure
Or outside. And it's still the importance of farmland locally. Now, we could also start working a little bit more with the farmers market. And those are people that are actually influenced by what we do. How often, talking about audience, if we're talking about this committee, why are we not presenting ourselves to the people that are in the farmers market, letting them know what we're trying to do and listen to them if they have ideas for the committee to bring to the town?
Could we have a booth at the farmer's market? A quarterly basis or something like that? I like the ideas.
It's just thinking outside of the county fair is a great place to be just because it is agricultural based and everything, but it's not the right place to talk with you. So why do we reach out and find other venues?
Yeah, that audience is engaged with us at that location.
Yeah, not.
Unless you
definitely
have
not-
corn.
corn box.
Yes, a corn pool. Plastic pool for corn.
With a nice wooden one down in front of the farm.
Um,
Takes like 5 people to move it though.
My daughter keeps asking me when am I gonna take her to Charlie, because she wants to buy corn for her chickens. They got so much fun picking on it.
Well, that's not, I don't know how we look into this, what is it? I thought, isn't that like an art festival or is that a different festival?
I think the one you and I are talking about is an art festival, but some local groups that are not artisans do have booths.
That was just an example. I mean, there is other events that they
There
do at
are,
Kershaw,
yeah.
but that's kind of the idea of let's go to where the people is actually going booth by booth looking at things.
I still like the idea about the food, somehow doing something with town producers. But I don't know where you would do that or when.
And we reach out to them. It's not a culinary center anymore, but
Yeah, your kitchen.
either kitchen at House Park.
You know,
Make a
the-
competition, right? You buy 5 different chefs, and they gotta be locally sourced, and you sell tickets to people to taste, and each person has, I don't know, 5, 6 tickets to taste a dish, and they cast votes, and can we make it fun?
We did that with land had, they had a section like that, that was held at Hobart. And they had a bunch of people come in. One guy brought in duck breasts that were just, and there were other people producing cheese. And, you know, just everything that you could imagine.
Just putting thoughts. Why can we not link this one to the 4-H auction? Those are locally produced animals. It's encouraging young generations coming in. The last year was the first time that they had the 4-H auction at the fair. So it's just starting up.
Well, you gotta think about the timing though, because, you know, if you're going to have a food, you know, food type of situation, you've got to do it when there's food available. Which, you know, is summertime. Is that correct for 4-Hers to go ahead and raise an animal?
The animals for the auction has to be ready to go to market at the end of the county fair.
So,
The animals go from county fair to the slaughter plant.
okay. So are you sponsoring that? Explain that a little bit.
No, I mean, can we co-brand it or do something to promote the fact that that is youth growing local food?
So if I was like Nando, if he was gonna raise a pig or something like that, you're probably gonna get the pig in spring, right? And you're gonna raise it through the summer.
They suggested January born pigs. So he's actually gonna have, him and a friend are gonna take 2 pigs to the auction this year. We gotta pick those pigs mid-March and they raise them from mid-March until the county fair.
Okay.
They have to be market ready at the time of fair.
And the auction takes place at the
At the
county?
fair, yeah. It is on the Friday, I believe, something like that.
And you would have a similar type of auction, you know?
I wouldn't have an auction, I would, whatever we are promoting locally grown, I would promote things like that. Either for people to go, just help 4-H promote that people go to bid on those animals. Or if we're gonna have something like a chef competition type deal, we'll suggest, can we have them choose one of those animals that was locally grown by youth?
Where, do you know when, how do you know who ends up buying the animals at the farm or at the fair?
Don't until the auction.
So for a local chef, they'd have to go find out who bought it. and get the
No, they
finished
just they go
product.
buy it. Yeah,
Oh, well.
Yeah, but-
I don't think they do that
I-
usually.
and
We can use our budget to buy it.
this one was the first year, right? So I haven't done it here in Ontario
First time
County,
ever, and I
but in the
couldn't
past in Wyoming County, when I was working with Sure Game, we used to have a budget. And we will go and try to bid on the customers' kids' animals.
Mhm.
And if we bought them, we just divided the meat about all the employees and went our way that way. So but that was just a way of supporting customers. The point that in here that they make with kids is the kids have to go invite 5 to 6 people each kid, so that there is people in there to be.
So basically, Nando is buying those pigs right now.
Yeah,
So wouldn't it be great if he had a sponsor that he knew who was going to buy this pig?
that would be ideal. Yeah, if someone is committed to buying the pig already,
They still have to go through an auction though,
they have to go through that.
so somebody else still can buy it.
And on the 4-H side, yes,
Well, you could still have an
and
auction.
each kid can only take one. Now, my son, he doesn't satisfy with that, so yeah, he already has one sold to Ken Gilgis, so he's buying 5 pigs. And he's doing one for 4-H, one for Ken Gilgis, and the other ones he'll slaughter himself and resell, like he's done other years. But on 4-H, each kid can only put one animal. And it would be great if they can have already a sponsor that says, hey, I'm committed at least at bidding. Maybe someone bids, but I'm at least gonna commit to bidding for you.
Or you could have the bidding take place now.
That's 4-H group, so that's.
So I'm talking about, but you don't have, that's a different program, that's a 4-H program.
Oh.
And, but if
So
you're.
you want
going
to
to-
incentivize a new program?
Sure. For the restaurateurs that are gonna cook up all of these great pork recipes for us at the Outhouse Park in August. Maybe September.
So maybe what you're doing there is just, we find a local grower and we just get chefs to just put in an entry fee. And they'll get meat and space to compete in this cookup.
And you could say this pig is going to the New York kitchen.
So does anybody have any contacts with any local chefs or?
Yes.
You do?
I used to. He sold like 700 birds to different restaurants in the area. We sold, full 250-pound pigs to restaurants as well. But it's easy to do. You just walk in the back door. And say, hey, this is what I'm doing.
So since you've sold some before, might have some contacts, would you be able to look into this idea a little bit? Sure. And get back to us?
Yep.
It's not a bad idea, or I mean, you've got a big idea right now.
Yeah.
I can also talk with Lindsay, our parks coordinator, and see if it's something that might be part of a bigger family-friendly event at the parks, that the parks committee might want to help.
Good idea.
The other thing to reach out, so we don't have to do everything, the poultry 4-H already does a cookup where they provide the chicken to the kids and the kids just cook it off and they have a competition. So they have some type of guidelines that we could maybe copy out or not.
Yeah, if we could be part of another event, that'd make it a lot easier.
Yeah.
You still want to
Okay.
contact the chefs?
I think that before contacting the chef, what we should do is try to, if you have good contacts and say, hey, would you be interested? I think that gives us a guidance of, yeah, it's worth it to pursue or not. But what we need to do is kind of frame it as, where can we be part of and where do we need someone else to take the rest of the project?
Well, I can tell you that it's, that all of my contacts are probably scattered throughout, especially with COVID.
Mm.
But that's not going to prevent me from making contact with the chefs that are there in the restaurants. Many of the restaurants are still there.
Why don't we try to frame it a little bit in between meetings? Just let's, those ideas of what will we teach? How would we ideally like to see it? And then if we can come to something that is structured, and we'll approach some chefs.
Okay.
'Cause this sounds like there might be some 4-H, other than just buying the animals, some 4-H involvement that we feel that.
I think that we could, I mean, that will bring a bunch of our goals as committee, right? Because it will be education to the community, it will be promotion of local products, it will be education of youth or reincorporation of youth into agriculture. So I think that we can make this a multi-point.
That sounds perfect.
Whether the kids are cooking or whether the kids are providing the animals for chefs to cook, and then getting the parks to bring the people to come tasting and do other things.
Because the Parks Committee does like to plan events in the summer, like movie nights and stuff, but they also plan like a night where there's a musician and they invite food trucks.
Yeah.
Why couldn't they also have some sort of fun with a food competition?
The last one that I went to, Mike Yaki played with his
Yep.
band. And they had a pizza guy there that was making pizzas. I don't know what else, but it definitely wasn't local, agriculture.
No,
being
and it just-
represented at all.
You know, it could be a separate event or it could be in tandem with one of those parks events. But yeah,
Can you reach out to the Parks Committee and see if they're interested or
I'll
not?
talk to Lindsay first. She might have some ideas up her sleeve too. And then also, yeah, we can talk to the Parks Committee and ask them you know, is there a way to tag on maybe something extra or you know, could even do it like a separate event? The only thing with this is I don't, and I could be wrong, but I don't see this as like feeding the masses. This is more like a fun. So maybe in addition to food trucks or something like that.
Just as an add-on, while we were making all those contacts, we made arrangements to pick up all of the compost and feed them to our pigs. So it was like free food for the pigs and less trash in the system. And I can't remember what the bakery was down on Main Street, but she had all of these, you know, just stale buns and stuff like that, and sweet buns and stuff. It's like, I looked in the bag, it's like, this is pretty good, but no. It was not for fast. But the compost from the New York Kitchen, the culinary center at the time, was amazing. You opened it up and it smelled like, you know, a fresh, you know, pizza. It's incredible, you know, all the peppers, tomatoes,
Mm.
you know, anything that wasn't perfect.
Right.
It was totally edible. Pigs loved it. So we did the same thing for chickens too.
Well, we got some good ideas with that to get started early in the year, so we'll see. We should have some information by next meeting, hopefully. The other thing, I guess, if we did want to look at the fair at all, we could try to get Casey early in the year to talk to him about the fact that it hasn't worked well, and he knows that it hasn't worked well. So if we could discuss that early on.
Yeah. I
But-
think in the past, when you talk to Casey, it's usually been what, like March, April. spring.
Yeah. But maybe
It's
we-
still early in the year. But if we're just talking to him about not participating, I suppose it doesn't matter then.
After being in the fair this is the first time that I was there all week. And I just had trouble figuring it out, where can we make an impact?
Yeah, I don't think most of the people there are interested in
Education.
listening to us, yeah. And this, an event like this would probably be more fun too than the presentation of maps or whatever we use.
Your goal is to get people understanding how much agriculture is in the town, why it's important to the town. For all the reasons that we like agriculture, not just because the fields are pretty and we like corn, but you know, it's part of the economy. It's a huge part of the town's
And
economy.
this would, if it involves 4-H, it'll help kids and kind of on the education side too.
Yeah, but you know, and those things are, everybody understands that, but putting a plate of food in front of someone that they can eat, you can say, you know, 90% of this was grown right in town, whatever they're able to do.
Well, then.
Or
the other
having a,
thing- Go ahead, I'm sorry.
you know, I'm sure, I don't know how, or we've got honey producers, we've got, you know, all these other little things besides big cash crops that people do in the town. From pigs to honey to whatever,
Grape
you know,
juice.
yeah.
I mean, right there in,
it would be
on Route 32,
It'd be a different
Dalkey's has
view of it.
just about every vegetable.
Yeah.
People in those greenhouses.
Mhm.
Well, I was gonna add on to it that there are events at the county fair, like the tractor pull or demolition derby. And you could sponsor a tractor. As that,
Does that get us closer to any of our goals, other than tell people we exist?
you put a big sticker on
You know, if
the hood of the
Yeah.
tractor.
it doesn't get us closer to educating or anything like that, kind of advertises. I think focusing on some of these other ideas this year would be good. It'll take quite a bit of more than planning.
Yeah, and maybe this year we just get it to a solid idea for next year to implement. But
Yeah, I think we'll make something happen. We did a job.
We could ask,
it cannot be summer then.
we could talk to Wegmans too.
Wegmans does sponsor local producers, and they really like it when they come in to their stores. Peterson's Farms down there produces all kinds of cauliflower and asparagus that you find in their stores. Select stores, not every store, but select stores. And, I think that they also, I know this isn't the town, in Vancouver, but Red Jacket, you know, all of their juices, they have Red Jacket juices in all of their stores. So Whitman's is a good idea.
Just think, you know, they may have resources and other contacts that could help too. And they grow some food too. Maybe there's a way they could provide some of the food for the chefs. Just like this.
You know, some of the more obscure aspects of being a farmer is the Cornell Cooperative Extension, and there are insect scouts that go out and take a look for pests and evaluate that, and it's just like, that would be really interesting to you know, or to a kid, you know, that is trying to get involved with agriculture and doesn't necessarily have, you know, land or, you know, all of the capital investment available to them. And somebody that is involved with the experimental station down there, New York State Experimental Station, and all the stuff that they do, would be really interesting to put into it as well.
Wegmans does do donations to nonprofits. It is pretty formal donation process, but it's not hard.
That's true.
Have you seen the new Wegmans commercials where they have their chefs on talking about, you know, oh yeah, you can get this great meal, just have to pop it into your ovens. They have it, I think it was peppercorn salmon, you know, glazed. Really good. You know, so they do have chefs that are definitely doing really nice
But they go
things.
up to Rochester and they have really good restaurants.
Yeah.
And next door kitchen or something like that, it's. I just went one time and realized that it's out of my budget to go again, but it was a pretty good restaurant. And they are big on the local food, and that's a working restaurant.
Well, we got a good start to look into, I think, so.
There's a new coffee roaster down here. I'm not sure if there's still there or not. But you could have a cookie fair. Everybody brings their cookies and they have a cookie, you know, judging contest. Is such
That's
thing as
just tough to get all the, just like the hot dog buns, it's tough to get local
The rest of
ingredients to make your cookies.
with pork.
pies,
Yeah.
peach pies.
Anything
Is
else?
there anything that we have to do with this before?
So as far as the solar law, I mean, this is where the draft stands right now. Doug did come last time and talk to you guys about it. I know you kind of have the gist of it, but what they need really is your official comment on the draft. You know, do you support it, do you not? Would you change it? Would you add additional things? So that they have that planning board, or not the planning board, the ordinance committee and the town board has feedback from you guys, because I know they would like it.
This has to be this meeting because they decide on February.
So out of respect for Tim, he needs some time to read this.
Yeah, I need to
Yes,
review
but
this.
it
so I
has
can-
to be this meeting. There's not time to wait till February, otherwise you won't have a comment that matters.
Oh,
Gotcha. Okay.
we better get this. What are the changes from the last time?
None.
None.
This is the draft as it has been since late December, because it was added to the town board agenda in December to set the public hearing. And so we're in that comment window right now.
So like 2 weeks ago was the final draft.
No, it hasn't changed since December. What's the date? December
8th.
8th.
So this one is saying that tier 1 and tier 2 is allowed on agricultural land.
I gave you guys all my copies. Let me pull up.
At least that's how I understand that it's read. It's not allowed if it's in the municipal overlay district, but it is allowed in R1, R2.
Well, I know tier 1 is residential.
Hey, Kim, is involved with the ordinance committee too, so she's been listening to all of the discussions. A lot of this, a lot of them. So you're actually a pretty good resource on this.
So I do know tier 1 is residential. I think tier 2 is as well, but it's larger. If I remember right.
Yeah, the definition of tier 1, 2, and tier 9.
Yes, there, it's in the back.
Oh, there it is. Roof mounted, mounted solar systems. Ground mounted solar system to meet the capacity. of the works.
So on the screen is the draft without the underlining and the cross outs if you want to take a look at it. But this law would reduce the size allowed to 8 acres in,
I think the
Everywhere
big part of 1 and 2 is that
except
they're
the
used
community,
locally.
commercial, industrial, and limited industrial. Those are the only places we have the larger ones.
right, which, so like the industrial is the areas where you guys have given your blessing, so to speak, before anyway.
Tier 1, tier 2 residential, does that include multifamily properties or, developments? And what we're seeing, popping up here, where they're setting aside a certain amount of area for, set aside for, yes, park area or something like that. So I think 8 acres of solar panels in the middle of a development like that is probably just about right.
We did discuss that at the last meeting, I think. What that said. The thing is though, that no one will want them, that's for their new houses. Somebody else's land.
Mhm.
Of course.
They want it in Jordan, like he's-
Then 8 acres is not enough to, get some big developer to build a solar panels.
And also with this new proposed changes, you have all these definitions of these tiered systems in the existing solar law that we have in place now. That's not defined this way, so those will change.
I actually like the limitations in here because agricultural land is only included for 1 and 2, which 2 has to use at least 90% of the electricity produced in its own place of production. So it's going to be limited to, if you want to run your power on solar, you can do it.
Yeah, it's
But
it's gonna limit any of the bigger projects.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, the ones that are in sketch right now wouldn't exist.
Are there any things to be concerned about with the special use permit procedures? That we should be aware of?
I mean, we have processes for special use permits in place already for other things. So I mean, the process is fine.
can you remind us what is identified right now as incentive zoning districts?
They just changed it. Do you have info on that? I can't remember what changed. Pull it up, I think.
The incentive zoning is where they can change something to the zoning, to incentive zoning, and then it has to have some sort of benefit to the town, the community, and the board decides.
But what is marked as incentive zoning as of now?
I think if that went through, they can use that in any place in town. That passed, didn't it?
I think I just saw it on equal. I'm just gonna try and look it up.
Is there any place in here, there's an area about decommissioning, and the applicant is responsible for removing all that stuff. There's some way to, let's say that these solar panels are gonna be there for 15 years.
It depends, I mean, sometimes it's longer.
There is. Maybe 20 years, so that really should be more clearly defined.
Well, they have to submit a decommissioning plan.
And who's gonna pay for it? And will they have money to pay for the decommissioning?
There's a bond that they have to take out.
That's what I was looking for.
And then what will happen is, I think they wanted some sort of review of that occasionally, so it counts for inflation, because if they go belly up, could be not enough money.
There are definitely smarter people involved with this than I.
So the incentive zoning. Town board is empowered to provide for a system of zoning incentives or bonuses. This is just a piece of it. The purpose of these regulations shall be to advance the town's physical, cultural, social policies, and a bunch of the comprehensive plan.
I think it was limited before to only a certain couple
Oh,
of zones.
Yes, here we go. This is what we were looking for. So they can enact incentive zoning in any district of the town of Canandaigua. So if the town board thinks that something is worthy, they can use incentive zoning wherever the project might be, but they get to decide, well, you might get to do something you weren't supposed to do, like build a taller building or put in solar.
And so,
But you're gonna have to give us something back, and they get to decide what that something is. It could be financial, it could be you have to, they get to decide, because that's one of the benefits it talks about up here. The town board is empowered to decide it, and they get to decide what's appropriate, and they get to decide whether they get to do it or not, and where. We list some examples of the benefits. And they also mention that the benefit may be either on the site of the subject parcel involved in the project or somewhere else. So like, it's written so that it could even work like the TDR, like, okay, you can do this here, but you have to protect land somewhere else. They can build recreational amenities, they could put in parks.
But the way that it is written, they could put in a big solar tier 4 project in the middle of the
Well,
agricultural
they
district.
they can change the use that's allowed on the parcel in question.
so it's yes, they could do that, but then there has to be some sort of benefit that they bring to.
And it's up to the town board.
But still, the solar law is that it can't cause a loss of valuable farmland.
That one is still impacted in crosswalks.
Yes,
So does that take precedence?
that's,
Preservation of farmland?
Yes. Special use permit standards. No special use permit for large-scale solar energy shall be issued unless the planning board specifically finds that the proposed project is in compliance with each of the following. And number one is that the planning board shall make a determination that the use of the land required by the proposed project sound shall not cause a loss of valuable agricultural lands to the town. So that part stays the same, it's still in here.
But in zoning is town board.
Correct. So if they use the incentive zoning, it's different. But
But the planning board, if it goes through that,
they still, right, it's unlikely that the
Pretty
town
well
board is
protected.
going to approve a large scale solar farm on the side of the hill near the lake or something. You know what I mean? Like, yes, the town board has the power to make those decisions if they use the incentive zoning, but
it was a lot of support for solar in the discussions.
not with the current. I can speak for them, obviously, but
I will make a motion to say that the agricultural committee appreciates the specificity to not lose agricultural land through these projects. Support of this.
Second that, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Very good.
the way the draft is written is more restrictive, much more restrictive on solar projects
And
than
they
our
did,
current one.
and they did added the fact that the planning board should take into consideration comments from the County Agricultural Advisory Committee. So, I mean, those are nice things that they are adding those and specifically.
Right, yeah, and they, you said, and they do mention this committee and its effect on agriculture. It's not just views from the lake, you know, it's,
Now, on a personal note, I think a lot of you would agree with me that, solar panels in an agricultural field not only would be an efficient use of the land, but also would have negative impact on agriculture. But, still having to need electricity and solar panels being something that can produce electricity, I've always thought that, why couldn't they put more solar panels on buildings, something that's already taken up space?
Well, I think we can go in that direction.
Especially in the uptown area.
that's a conversation these groups have before too.
Good.
So you were mentioning that in several meetings, you know.
Like, I think Don said that they were gonna try to encourage some of that
Yeah,
up in that area.
yeah, rooftop and stuff like that.
If I'm not mistaken, one of the issues with that is only certain buildings would be able to have them because you have to build them with the structure in mind for weight. But I
So,
mean,
yeah, easier with new construction.
But yeah, there's some buildings being built that, the building is actually solar panels.
Yeah, there is a technology that the windows
Yeah.
are capable of producing that. But we're gonna, all of that technology is great where sun shines.
Mhm.
In here, we just need to be honest, New York has a lot more potential for producing energy with water movement, whether it's capturing waves in Ontario Lake or out the coast in the Pacific than solar, because we don't shine sun. So let's just get active on renewable sources of energy and not just get stuck with it has to be solar. I think that's the problem that we have had. Oh, solar is working. Gotta be solar. Well, solar works for sunshine.
Right.
Well, we have proven wind turbine farms here, so. And they need to be in high points. And guess what? There's no farming going on at high points because it's a rocky track.
Well, there is a number of farms that have, and the difference between solar and wind is that when they rent land from a farmer to put wind, the farmer gets benefit. Because and we have a couple of customers in Wyoming County that they put wind. They came in and put really nice field roads that the farmer can use. the amount of space that they use compared to solar is a fifth. And so the farmer gets the rent for it, still uses the field, and now has much better farm roads that they can use to go farm. So that's a little different story than,
Yeah, that-
than the solar.
so wind really is effective here where solar panels are not.
It's effective for the farm land use. Yeah, right.
Absolutely.
There have its downfalls as well, but
So as a agricultural committee, we should also suggest that wind is a better alternative than solar panels. If we have to be part of the renewable energy process. you
I don't know if our area is candidate based on airflow or currents, but yeah, I think for agriculture, it is more than this.
I've done a study on my land and average wind speed on about that bill is 14 miles per hour, and which is more than enough. So
I should want my house. It's always windy.
Anything else before we?
Can I just kind of go back through all the things that
Yep.
I need to do before your next meeting? So if you guys could look through the one-page report I drafted and give me some feedback by no later than the end of next week, because that's when I have to turn it in to go to the agenda. You know, what do you like, what do you not like, what you want me to change, and so then you'll have your official report to the town board, and then I'll get you guys copies. I said I would share the criteria list that gets projects forwarded to you guys for Tim, for you, since you haven't seen it before, and just kind of a reminder. It's not a bad idea to look at that every 3 years. As you mentioned, we probably should mention that overlay district on it. I doubt that's on there. But we haven't looked at that in a few years, and the last time we looked at it, we made several changes, so I'll send that around. At your next meeting, in addition to any referrals you might have, do you want to take a look at whether it looks like this or not, but just kind of your outlook for the year? And you know, maybe pick some dates to look at the implementation plan, or pick some sections to focus on and when you want to do that. That might be good.
And I think, yeah, that is like a second page agenda, whatever you come up
Yeah.
with.
Yeah, just as a rider on the
Yeah,
page,
yeah.
where it's always there. Yeah, that's a good idea. Okay.
And then you're gonna check with parks.
Yep, I have that on
Information
my list. I'll talk to Lindsay. She's the parks coordinator, and she goes to all the parks committee meetings. I'll kind of give her an run around some of the ideas you guys talked about and see if she thinks it's something they might want to hop on. I imagine the answer is yes. The parks committee likes to plan fun events for people at the parks. So, and I have never heard them say no when other groups want to help. It just makes the events more interesting, or enables us to have more events. So, see what she says. And then this, the official comment for the solar draft will be sent to the ordinance committee, and then also it'll end up as a comment along with the other attachments for the town board meeting when they're set to consider adopting the law. It'll just be in there with the package, along with comments from other, groups like the Ontario County Planning Board and stuff like that. And I'll keep you guys posted on the timeline. For it.
has David Sutter been sworn into the town board yet? He's would be a good agriculture representative for us on the town. I think that we should ask David to go ahead and fill the 7th seat. Since Gary was here,
Yeah, let me see. I think, yeah, you're definitely allowed to be on here as a town board member, because Gary was for years.
would you ask him for us? I mean, I don't want to overstep my boundaries here.
No, anybody try to find,
I'm seeing him on Saturday. That's-
I mean, until Gary passed away, we had a town board member in this group, and I felt like it was helpful.
good idea. All right. See everybody next month. We'll be busy. Busy already.
And thanks for having me on the committee,
Yeah.
because this is something I find a lot of value in, being informed and having voice.
Hey, you're the future, pal.
Yeah, and the meetings are often like this, where there's a bunch of different things to talk about. A variety of topics.
Sure.
This was a good one to have for your first one. Talked about a local law, you did a referral,
Right.
other administrative stuff. So, you got it all in one.
Those other times, pretty quick.
Yeah,
One or two referrals and that's it. Well, we've started off with a lot of stuff to work on, so we should. hit more meetings.
Sure.
Keep things interesting.
We're gonna be meeting here from now on.
oh, I was
Because
supposed to ask you guys that. What do you want? Do you want to stick in this room or the other room, or do you want to go back downstairs?
I'd rather be up here than downstairs. I don't know why. We went downstairs because someone else was using this room.
I think, I don't remember, because it was available and it was a nice room. I think was one of the original reasons we did it.
Mm.
Or was it because ECB was up here? Or was this before
Somebody
you?
else was up here, I think.
Before me.
It was before you. I think it was when ECB was in here.
Yeah, up here it's quiet.
But now you
There's
don't
no-
meet on the same days as ECB anyway, but they meet downstairs.
It's a larger group, so maybe when we have people invited, we may have to go down there, but otherwise, I like it.
I think it works unless we're doing a lot on screen and then anyone sitting over there is, they're just either gonna have to come over here or turn around, but we can make it work. All right, so maybe we can make that part of the agenda,
Change that.
use this room. It's the Ogre Reader Room, named after the steamboat.
I had somebody stop by my house and take pictures of my house and my barn
Yeah.
for the store.
Oh, yes.
What was that about?
We're wrapping up a grant from the Preservation League of New York State to provide a detailed inventory of all structures that are older than a certain number of years. I can't remember what the cutoff was, 50 or 100 years. I think it was 50, but since that means you're looking at things that we feel like are rather recent, I think they were trying to push it more towards like 75 years or 100 years. But so basically an inventory of all the historic or older buildings. And then in addition to just listing them and knowing, like the year they were built and stuff like that, they're also looking at architectural styles, whether they might be eligible if the landowner would want to see if they could list them on the National Register. We have a few properties in town that are eligible. We only have one that's actually listed, and that's the Grange Building in Cheshire. It's on the National Register.
Yep, it's got.
That just means that it cannot be modified. It has to be.
It's
bunch of
totally up to the
approvals.
people who own it. If you want to put it on the National Register, it opens up financial incentives, like you can get a tax break for restoring it to historically accurate or whatever, so some people want that. But it's more of an inventory of what we've got or what, so that sometimes it's so that when it's gone, you still have a record of it being there.
I hope my barn sticks around for another 100 years. So.
So, yeah, so that's almost done. Several years ago, we got an earlier iteration of that grant to write a historical context statement for the town, which is really just the history of the town, everything. And we have it. It's actually really well written, and I don't.
Is it online?
Yeah. It's a history of the town from pre-European settlement to now, everything, transportation, the villages and the hamlets, pretty much everything that happened from as far back as they could go. It's really great, actually. And then, so this is like the second part of that. We have the whole history, and now this is like the inventory of what was built in the town.
pulled up in a Mercedes station wagon and hopped out and started to shoot pictures. It's like, who is this? It doesn't quite make sense.
Yeah, so they're pretty much done with it. Actually, that's why Ray was here earlier today, because he and a couple of the history group were going through some of the reports as they wrap it up.
Yeah. Reference to.
They're supposed to.
Cool.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Is out feeding chickens.